Probably the best place to start is if we go back to 2011, 2012, pretty amazing seasons, like by any stretch of the imagination. Lots of records broken, things like that. Must have seemed pretty good, yeah?
Yeah, man, definitely pretty good. It was really good couple of seasons, a lot of fun, and seemed like just the, a lot of hard work for a lot of years, kind of paying off. I'd only been racing mountain bikes for a couple of years, but we've been racing some sort of two-wheeled bike, whether it had a motor or not, since I was 4 years old, pretty much. So, and the goal has kind of always been to try to hopefully do it for a career, and to reach the top level of any sport is, it's pretty special. So it was cool, man. It was a really fun couple of years.
Did it almost take you by surprise a bit how dominant you were in those seasons?
Yeah, I think it did, definitely. I mean, I always expected that I could get there. I knew that I could, but, I think a lot of people, they feel like they have what it takes to get there. But, there's a lot of things that can happen along the way that sometimes it just doesn't go your way. So, actually getting there is something else. So it was, I definitely felt like I had the speed and I would have the stuff eventually if I could keep working hard to at least have a good shot to win races. But yeah, I didn't expect it to kind of start rolling as fast as it did, and as many as it did, kind of how it happened. But at the same time, I mean, I wouldn't say I was really surprised by it, but it was definitely a little bit more than I expected so soon. So it was, man, I didn't think a lot about it. I just kind of kept racing and focusing on just trying to just do the best I can, as I always do, and be happy with that. So it was, it's just cool. Sometimes it goes your way and things really fall into place and everything lines up, and there's definitely a couple of those years.
Yeah. So talking of things falling into place and going the right way, we then go on to 2013 and a lot of big changes in everything around you, really, your team, your trainers, your mechanics, all sorts. A lot of change. Was that difficult to deal with?
There was a lot of changes, but they were all changes that I really believed and still do that they were, the best way for me to go. So it wasn't, I wasn't hesitant about it or second guessing it ever. I always knew it was the right, where I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to be doing, what I believed to be the right thing. It was always 100% confidence there. But it was a change this year. I mean, it was, like I speak about things really just going my way. It just really didn't go my way this year. We put in a lot of hard work coming into the season. We had a bike that was easily capable of winning races. I was, my speed, my fitness, everything was there. It just, it just didn't come together. I just had too many runs with mistakes and just weird things happening. And it's hard to explain that to somebody unless you've been there. When you know what it's like to ride that line, what it takes to win races, which is always where I ride. It's easy for things to go your way. If it all comes together, I always feel like I have a really good shot at winning, but it's really easy for it to not go your way because you're riding that fine line. So sometimes you get away with it and sometimes you don't. And this year, man, it was just not huge mistakes. And I was really focused and having good runs, but they just kept coming. And everybody's tightened up the last few years as far as the amount of guys going fast. I wouldn't say that the pace has really quickened at the top. I think it's still the same or close, but there's not 2 or 3 guys that can run that pace now. There's like 10. So it's but I mean, even then, Stevie and G kind of even rose above that this year. So it's it just tightens up. You just can't make those mistakes like you used to be able to and still do good. You have to throw down smooth runs.
So do you think that's the difference then? Because you say that things didn't go your way. You made little mistakes in 2013, but I remember in 2011, 2012, there were a few races where you won by quite a considerable margin, and you'd even crashed or gone out of the tape, and you still won. So do you think, the other people have got faster and so you can't get away with those mistakes? Or
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the crash you're talking about was at Fort William. I think in 2011 I had a crash, and it was a quick one. I slid up, stood right back up, and got going again. So it only cost me probably, 3 or 4 seconds, but I ended up getting 5th there still on the podium. And that's, that track especially, because it's the same track every year. It'd be really hard to get away with that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I could even put my finger on it exactly, but it's definitely the amount of people going fast. You might only lose 4 seconds like then, and that was the difference between first and fifth. Now it's like sometimes if you're 4 seconds back, you're almost out of the top 10 or something, it seems like. So that just the mistakes get magnified because of how many guys are going fast. So it's just part of the deal. It's as any sport evolves and people start to put in more work. The bikes get better. There's more guys going fast. You look at Supercross or a lot of other sports when they get competitive. There's just those years when it's there's a lot of fast guys, and when that happens, it's even harder to be consistent at the top. So that's what it was this year, and I just wasn't able to put runs together what I was capable of, and so it magnified the mistakes a lot more than it maybe would have in the past.
Did you feel a lot of pressure going into the season? The fact that you'd had such dominant seasons and then you're on a new team and feeling like you had to perform for that team, or?
I wouldn't say. I always have a little bit of pressure on myself because I know what I'm capable of. So I always want to, rise to the level that I feel like I can ride at. But at the same time, I wouldn't say that other people's expectations get to me a lot. I always know that I'm going to show up as prepared as I can and ride the best I can ride. And what else can you do besides that? Sometimes I've had plenty of times, a lot more losses than wins since I was 4 years old. I guess we'll put it that way. So it's not new to me. And sometimes you can do everything right. You can try your hardest. You can get to the race. You can put it all out there, and you get 20th, like at Fort William. And it's like, you better be okay with that because that's racing, And sometimes you have off days or off seasons or whatever, and I've had plenty of it in the past. So you just you take the good with the bad, and I know I'm always gonna put 100% in, do the best I can do, and just show up and do that. And if I'm doing that, then I know I can be happy. I'm honoring my sponsors. I'm loving them in a way that I'm not messing around away from the races and showing up unprepared and kind of being an idiot. I'm doing everything I can for them and for myself, and so I'm always happy with that. So for me, this year was really good. I wouldn't for myself, I wouldn't change it at all. I learned a lot about myself and about people, and where my beliefs were with certain things, little things that ended up bothering me that I didn't think that they would, as far as people's reactions and caring a little bit too much about, other people or things outside of myself, more than I realized that I would if I was ever in a situation like that. So for me, as far as growth as just a person and my faith and stuff, it was a really good year. But, for my sponsors, I would have liked to have done better because it really didn't showcase what we were capable of, how good the equipment was, how good I was, and the team as a whole. So that was a bit of a bummer, but, we still had a couple of good races, and they know where I'm at with my work and how, what I'm capable of. So they've been nothing but 100% supportive and just moving forward and hoping things go our way this year.
You said about the equipment then, and there was an awful lot of talk around Fort William time last year about you weren't entirely happy with the bike setup and things like that. And what was the score there then?
Yeah, it was basically just, for one, people really made that way bigger of a deal than it was. It was not that big a deal, and people kind of blew up on it. So I guess it's important to keep that in mind. But we just went to Fort William, and I was just straight up just struggling with the stability of the bike, with my riding style, with just how short it is on all the tracks, anywhere I'd ridden it before, and still right now I have a bike in my garage right now with a short chainstay because I enjoy riding it more. It's a funner bike to ride. But it just didn't quite give me the stability I needed at a World Cup kind of track, and sometimes you mess that up. A lot of people were like, oh, you should have done the testing and you should have known. And we put in more hours of testing and more time coming into last season than I ever had before, probably all the years combined. Because, I'm on a new bike. I got to put in the work. And but we were riding different tracks that I didn't realize that the gap would be that significant. I've been to Fort William a few years. I felt like I knew what to expect, and I thought we would be fine. And we were. I still could have done better, but it just it magnified, you know, little things that I wasn't really aware of. So yeah, we just switched to a large bike the next weekend. I mean, literally 5 days later or whatever, we did qualifying. I qualified second at Val di Sole with just a pretty average run. And so I was like, okay, sweet. Yep, on some of these tracks, I just need a little more stability. So we did some testing and figured out that just adding a little bit, and I mean a little bit, I think it was like 18 mil or less. I can't remember even exactly what it was, to the rear end. It gave me that little bit of stability that I was looking for. And then we were good from then on out. The bike was perfect. It was, I just didn't ride it to its potential.
So you say about your preparation then, that you hadn't really ridden on a track like Fort William. Is that, do you ever get tempted to, you know, go to Europe and stuff during the off season to train on tracks? Or because I think you do, am I right in saying you do a lot of the training around here? Yeah,
I mean, we do a lot of training here, but we usually rely on like East Coast races before the start of the season, and you know, we go to Port Angeles and ride other tracks a lot before the season starts. So yeah, a lot of people jump on that bandwagon pretty quick. You know, why don't you go ride World Cup tracks? And it's like, well, I haven't in the past, and those seasons worked out pretty good for me. You know, I'm pretty smart to know what it's going to take. Last year was a little different because we didn't start at South Africa and then have, you know, a month of East Coast riding before we went to the first World Cup. It was just straight into, you know, Fort William and whatever it was, like, you know, June or something. It was the first race, and I hadn't done, you know, we'd been to Port Angeles multiple times and a lot of other tracks, and I thought, you know, I just thought we'd be okay, and it was just a little more than I expected. So it was like, sure, made a mistake. It's like, that happens, and and we fixed it by the next weekend. So, but I mean, even then, the bike was still, I could have won that weekend on it. I just, it was just an off weekend for me. So what can you do?
So you kept your preparation for this season the same as previous years?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, this year we're going to South Africa first, so that kind of terrain is pretty similar to what we actually get to race on here, with that type of track and stuff, so you can kind of build in, and then we'll probably do some more national level races between Australia and Fort William, and so we'll be dialed, and we already know, you know, now I know what to expect, so we know where to go and with our setup and showing up as good as we can. So it's always a trade-off. I think one thing people don't realize, they say, why don't you go to Europe and why don't you go over there and ride on World Cup tracks in the winter when it's like, you know, it's cold and it's raining and it's whatever. You know, you can't just go to Fort William right now and ride, probably. I mean, maybe you can, but it wouldn't be very much fun. And so for me, I always just, you know, we do a lot of traveling. You got to do what you feel is best for you. And I feel like being here when I can wake up in sunshine and put in my training hours every day and be consistent and enjoy it, not, you know, struggling through a day to get in 4 runs on a track that's rough with, you know, nobody around that I know, and making a huge trip over there and doing that. It's just not worth it for me. You know, I've been racing these races for a few years, so I know what to expect, and I've been able to do pretty good in the past. So it's you know, it's just one of those things. Last year it was just it caught me a little bit by surprise, so I was like, what can you do? But now we know, so we can move forward.
And you do you feel any less pressure coming into this season, the fact that you're no longer expected to win every race? Like, I mean, it's a crazy thing to say, but there was a point when everyone was expecting you to win every race, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I've always felt kind of like the underdog, I guess, growing up, because success was always hard to come by since I was a kid. And so, yeah, it's different when you reach that level, especially when you win a lot. At first, it's a cool thing, and after a while, I think people start to just expect it like it's easy. You know, they don't understand how hard it is to win one race, let alone string a few of them together. It's extremely hard, and when you're there, now you're the benchmark. Everybody's studying and everybody's trying to figure it out, and a lot of people got serious and really made a charge at it, so their game rises up, and you're just you know, anything but a win now is seen as failure, which is crazy. I mean, a 20th place at a World Cup is pretty awesome. You know, I mean, to even qualify for a World Cup is amazing, but when you know what you're capable of, obviously, you know, that changes a little bit. But yeah, it is funny how it becomes, you know, like it's easy. Like you should just be winning, and if you don't, something's wrong. Not that, oh, it's actually a hard sport to win these races, and sometimes you don't win them all. Like, you would think it's common sense, but people don't treat you that way. So, but yeah, coming into this year is good. I think, I mean, I was excited last year, had a fun year as far as my riding and everything. I enjoyed it. And so this year I just want to keep building on that, and hopefully we'll have more success in form of results. I think we should. I'll definitely be ready when we show up at the races to win races, I feel, and there's no reason we shouldn't, but that was the case this year, and it still didn't go my way, so it's nothing's a sure thing, but I know I'll have the tools to win races this year. It's just seeing if it falls into place, but I'm pretty confident that it will.
Do you feel pressure from your sponsor at all, from Specialized? Because obviously those guys must have invested a fairly serious amount of money in you.
Yeah, I mean, it's man, they've been really cool since I first signed with them. We went through kind of a little bit of a gnarly time when I first went onto the team, leaving Trek, and man, they've always had my back. They've always been nothing but 100% supportive, and that never changed this year. If anything, they were more happy than just about anybody all year. There was never, not one bad thing all year I ever heard from them. It was always like, just keep working, man. We know you're putting in the work. We know what you're capable of. Like, we got your back. Let's just keep moving forward and you'll get there. And so that was part of the reason when I signed with them. It was, I really got to feel kind of for the company. When you go up there to Morgan Hill and you meet everybody, I think you quickly see that Specialized is maybe a little different than what people make it out to be as this big corporate monster. They're it's a lot more laid back, and it is a big company and it's a business, obviously, so you can't skip that part. But it's there's never been any kind of pressure, and if anything, I've seen them get pretty mad at some people that have said some things because they know the work I put in and they know how hard we worked last year, and they know that it's racing. Nothing's a sure thing. It's having somebody that's willing to put it all out there, though, that's the biggest thing. So they've been really stoked, and that's just felt good as a rider, because I don't need that to keep pushing forward, but it is definitely really nice to know that they're always supportive, and they signed a 3-year deal with me. So for these 3 years, they're giving me everything they've got, and nothing negative. So it's been really cool.
So. Talking about pressure, related to pressure, you said before about, you've obviously got pretty strong, firm religious beliefs, and does that, and I've sort of read before that you almost say that it's kind of almost destiny. Is that right? Or that do you feel that you're totally responsible? Does that take some of the pressure off, basically, your beliefs?
Yeah, my faith, it's important to get that it's my faith, not another religion. It's actually my belief and what I believe to be the truth. But when God says He works everything out for my good, and I believe it. And when I see that I'm doing this job, He's put me in this position, and whether success or it's always going to be a success for me, whether it's first place or last place. Whether it's success in the world's eyes or not is it's not really up to me. It's I put in all the work I can. Obviously, I want to win. I want to be able to do that for myself and my sponsors. But when you get to a point where you have all the tools to win, like last season, and they don't come, for me, I know that I can win just as easily as I could have won last year as easily as me not winning. It could have he could have changed it or switched it around or whatever, really easy. So it's not. I see everything for a reason, for sure. It happens on purpose. I just control the effort I put in, and that's always going to be 100%. And however it works out, I know that that's for my good, which it was this year. The results.
You learned a lot.
Yeah, the results suck, but when I look back at the year, to my standards, I guess, but for me, I wouldn't have changed it for myself because it taught me so much, and there's a lot of things I don't think I would have learned, especially not as quick as I did, without a season like that. So I look at it and I'm really thankful for it. Moving forward now, it really is, it's just, it's built my faith to a whole kind of new level. So that's, when you literally can't lose in life speaking, I guess. When you get a win, that He brings about the win, and I can be stoked because it's really not easy to do. And so when things line up and He blesses me that way, it's awesome. And when He doesn't, and it's like, whoop, it's like we gave it everything we have. I know He's still stoked, so it's like you can be comfortable with that. So it does. It takes all the pressure off because there is no fear of failure. What is a failure? you know, if you give it 100% and you really, I mean, I'm not just talking about showing up and doing everything you can in your race run to go fast. I mean, during the off season, during the week, leading up, like showing up and doing the best you actually can do, you can never outgive that. So I know that if I'm doing that, I'm loving my sponsors, I'm loving him the right way. And so yeah, the rest of it just falls into place however it can. You really can't fail. You know, you have this perceived failure, I think, as an athlete. When you reach a bar, if you don't hit it, you see it as a failure. But it's like, well, did you do everything you could? Is there anything else you could have done? And it's like, well, no. And sometimes maybe you learn, oh, maybe I can do this. But as far as the effort you put in, if there isn't, then it's like, well, I just wasn't the guy today. What can you do? So it, yeah, I mean, and that's how it should be with everybody as far as just looking at results. There is no, you know, yeah, maybe you don't get to the result that you hope for, but this fear of failure, what people are going to think if I don't maintain this level is stupid. It's not, it's not real. So it's, yeah, man. I mean, for me, it takes all the pressure off because I know he can bring the blessing in the form of wins or not. Yeah. But either way, he's going to bless me in the long run, and it's all going to work out for my good. So it's like,
I would see that as a pretty strong advantage in many races because I always think that a huge amount of downhill racing is about the mental game and how people deal with pressure on the start line, and I don't know, people getting totally worked up about it. And do you not really get worked up then when you start in a race? I
don't really. I get definitely more mellow as the years have gone on. Last year I was more mellow on the start gate than I ever have been, and the runs really were going better in sections than I've ever ridden. You know, as far as just being relaxed and focused and letting go of the outcome. You know, I mean, when you start to have few races where you feel like everything, you have all the tools to win a race and there's no reason it shouldn't, but then it doesn't, you start to realize pretty quickly that you can't control the result, which you always know before. You know, you can never control the result of a race. You know, you can come close when your preparation, you can say, okay, if things go my way, I should win. But as far as a for sure thing, it's never a for sure thing. So, yeah, you start to learn pretty quick that it can go either way, which is something you've always known all along, but it just kind of cements it. Yeah. And so that was the case this year, you know. So, yeah, I mean, you hear a lot of racers in any sport, you know, they talk about second place is failure and it's everything to them. If they don't have racing and results, what is it? And you see it, you know, they'll start to lose a few races and it's not fun anymore. You know, they get down on themselves. You know, it's really easy as a racer to start to base kind of your self-worth in race results, because when you're winning, everybody tells you you're awesome, and then you get second or you don't match up to the level that they think you should. And, man, the hate pours on pretty quick. So it's, you know, if you're not strong in your belief, that can start to frustrate you, you know, and pull you away from your beliefs and start to get in the way. So it's...
How do you deal with all the sort of hate and that? Because obviously with social media and everything today, do you just ignore it or what? Because I see that quite often when you're at the top, everyone tries to knock you off and, you know, everyone loves the underdog.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just different. It's funny. People are funny, you know. I think people that have raced and do stuff, they actually understand it. But for the average fan, they really don't understand what it's like to be there. And they don't understand, I guess, how difficult it is, really. I mean, they can say they do, but their actions don't line up with that. And but yeah, I mean, it's just a funny thing. I mean, you win a lot of races. I think people, they build you up to be this like superhero type character, you know, and then you start to show weakness and you get beat or something, and they have to find a reason why. And you can tell them the reason why, but they don't believe it because it has to make sense in their head or something weird.
Blame on equipment.
Yeah, they gotta find something to blame and not just like, oh, like those were just a couple amazing years, and that is not easy to do. And there's a lot of other guys out there that are amazing riders, and they were just better. It's like, okay, you know, they got to find a reason. So it's, yeah, that was one thing this year that I learned about myself. I'd always never cared what people think, but I started to care a little bit too much towards the middle of the year, just because I was always 100% content with my results. I was never upset because, like I said, I knew I was doing everything I could to be the best I could, and I knew I had the tools to win. It just wasn't coming together, so it was just gonna, you know, take time, and you know, hopefully things would turn around. But when every person comes up to you and is asking you what's wrong and why aren't you winning and how are you, like how could you sort of thing, and you hear it in their voice, it starts to get frustrating. You know, you really think that people would respect the work and stuff more than they do. So yeah, I mean, I started to get a little frustrated towards the beginning of the middle of the season. I was starting to want to win bad because I just wanted to shut everybody up. You know, I wanted to stop all the crap about the bike and all the other things and show like, nope, everything really is fine. Like I'm telling you it's fine, but you won't believe unless I win a race. So it's like I just wanted to win a race so that I could people would stop talking. And that's really bad on my part because I never race for anybody but myself, and I'm always content with the effort I put in. So that just really didn't line up with my beliefs, and it exposed that. You know, I realized like, oh, I kind of cared a little bit more than I thought I did. So in that way, and a lot of reasons, it was a good year. You know, and I mean an amazing year for that. So I'm definitely thankful for it now, and I can move on and look at it in the right light this year, and just focus on doing that. And I mean, as many haters as people say, I had more people come up to me this year, stoked, you know, like actual fans that get it. They're excited. They understand it's bike racing and it's difficult, and you know, they're stoked that we're out there doing it. And so that was cool. But you know, usually the ones that are more negative are the more vocal ones. So people just grab that, attack it, and run with it. And they gotta have something to talk about if they don't have anything else going on. So I don't blame them for it. It's just part of the deal, unfortunately.
So are you feeling good coming into 2014 then? Off the back of what you learnt last year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, I was feeling good last year, but you always learn. Every year I learn, even through my years of winning. I'm always learning. That's kind of always been my thing. Always trying to learn something to keep improving. Like, where can I get better? No matter how good you think you are, there's always somewhere you can get better. And I found a few of those spots this year, definitely. I've got a new coach. We're always working on new stuff. So I think, you know, for the time of the season I am right now, I've already made improvements better than I ever have been. Just like last year going into the season, I felt like I was more prepared than any other year. And I've just kept building on that. So yeah, I feel really good for it being, February now. And we still have about a month and a half. And I think we're going to show up really good, definitely ready. And give it everything we've got and just see what happens.
Are you feeling good about the tracks that are on this year?
Yeah, they do look good. I'm excited to go to a couple new venues this year. Australia will be cool. I mean, I've only been there once, and the crowd was pretty awesome there. So I'm sure that'll be a wild race, and it looks like a cool track too. And I'm always excited to just have new tracks. I think it's good to just kind of take mountain biking to different places and just race new things. So, but then we have old tracks on the schedule that are really good. So the schedule is good. I was bummed they took Valdesol off, but other than that, it's pretty good. And I like the schedule change now, racing on Saturdays instead of Sunday. I always thought that day of practice between qualifying and race was a bit of a waste. So for me personally, I'm digging the schedule a lot more, and so I think it'll be good.
Cool. And do you have any goals for this year in terms of results? I mean, you've never won a world champs so far. Is that up there as a...
Yeah, I mean, it always is. For me, still as a racer, and it's just me, everybody's different. To win a World Cup title would still be more special to me right now than a world champ, just because you usually have to win multiple races and consistently be the fastest guy over a year. But I won 2 of those and I haven't won a world champs. And sponsor-wise, you can't call yourself a world champ unless you win world champs. So, it would be amazing to win that race. But I wouldn't say that I really set a lot of goals for myself. I always am hopeful to win, and I know that if things do go my way, that there's no reason that I shouldn't have a really good shot at that. But as far as goals go, it's the same every year, and I might sound like a broken record. People give me grief for it, but I want to have fun and keep learning and enjoy the job I get to do. I mean, I am racing a bicycle for a living, which is pretty incredible, and I'm realizing that I've enjoyed racing already this year more than I ever have in my whole life. Letting go of all the other stuff and getting back to kind of why I love to do it, and just being excited to actually race and see how much I can get out of myself for a few minutes on a Saturday or Sunday in one run. So man, I'm excited for this year. I think it's going to be. I mean, I know it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm hopeful that the results will follow. And I think that they will, but either way, I'll be happy.
it seems like you really enjoy downhill racing now, but I'm sure a few years ago you almost said that your faith could take you in any direction, and that you could leave downhill racing at any point. Is that still true, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that. I mean, you still never know. I don't say that in a way like I don't care about it at all, and I can just leave it tomorrow. But at the same time, I don't care about it at all, and I could just leave it tomorrow, if that makes sense. You know, it's I've done it since I was a little kid. I love it. I know I'll be in it for another 2 years. I have 2 more years on my deal, and I imagine I'll sign another contract after that. I don't know for sure, but in my mind, if I saw it working out how I would like it to, that's how it would work out. You know, I'd race for at least another 5 years or so. Yeah. But you never know. But that's what it is in my head, and I am enjoying it. I used to not really enjoy the racing part, you know, and I would admit it. You know, the racing was the work part for me. I've always loved riding my bicycle and training, and the racing is what allowed me to do that full time throughout the year. So it was like, all right, if I got to put in 5 minutes of work 8 times a year at World Cups and get through the racing part, you know, and it's cool. The results were always fun when you have good results. You see the hard work pay off. But I wouldn't wake up Sunday morning like, I can't wait to race today. It was always like, I was at peace and I was excited, you know, to kind of get it over with. And, you know, I was like, all right, time to put my head down and really work today and do the best we can, and then I can go back to relaxing. But it's like, why would there ever be a stress there unless you have this weird fear of a perceived failure in your mind? Why wouldn't you be excited to race? Like, that's what you're working for. That's why you're putting in all the hours, is to show up and test yourself and see how fast you can go, see what you can get out of yourself. So yeah, this year my mind's definitely changed a lot regarding racing. I'm letting go of the need for results, which I've always thought that I had, but I'm doing a lot better now. It's actually part of my belief now. It's clicked. So I'm excited to go to the races every weekend. I'm excited to see how hard I can push myself and what, you know, all the training, all the hard work, how can I, you know, put that to work. And then just however it happens, and not thinking about that at all. But it's cool, man. I'm excited because even since I was 4 years old, it's always kind of felt that way with racing for me. So kind of for the first time in my life, I'm really excited to show up and race.
Are you ever tempted to do enduro racing or anything, or is that not even?
No,
doesn't excite you at all?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it does. Not because it isn't cool or it's not whatever, but just that it's just. It's not what I believe is in the future for me. I think downhill is my deal. That's what I like. Those enduro guys are gnarly. That's a whole different type of training. I mean, Josh Carlson was just out here last week with me training and riding. And it's just, man, those guys, they can just suffer like cross country. It's a different kind of riding. And, you know, for my style and my preferences, I enjoy downhill more for me. So that's why when I retire, I'm sure I'll be racing Super Ds and stuff because I just want to ride a bike and have fun. But as far as trying to do the World Cup Enduro thing, I don't think never going to happen.
I've got to ask you, because everyone always, wheel size, do you...
you had to say it. I don't know. I'm used to it.
I mean, what's your view on moving up wheel sizes in downhill? Do you see there being an advantage? You've obviously ridden different size wheels in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for whatever's faster is better. I'm not stuck in I want to ride it just because it's what I ride thing. It's like, hey, if it's better, then, or you think it's better, then let me jump on it and see. And especially with racing, I mean, if you're casual riding, that's one thing. But if you're racing and trying to be the best and everybody else is doing that, it's like you have to do that. So, I mean, I've seen the advantages, obviously. Anybody that's really kind of ridden at a higher level, even on a cross-country bike like my Enduro, there's definitely advantages of my 29 over my 26. There's some disadvantages as well. But when you look at, you know, how does that weigh out in the overall, you know, scale of things, for me and my preference, I definitely enjoy that 29er more than I do my 26 in a lot of ways. So I'm sure a lot of that would cross over to downhill. So I mean, we're always testing, we're always working on what is going to be the next fastest thing, as is, you know, a lot of companies, but especially at Specialized, we're kind of always, it seems like, on the forefront of you know, bike technology. So I don't know right now for sure what I'm even going to be on at the first race. It's still up in the air. But yeah, I mean, I'm stoked with the bike we have right now. If I show up on that bike right now, the first race, I'll be confident I can win. So we'll just see. We're always messing with stuff, but it has to for sure be better for us to ride it. We're not trying to ride it just because it's different. So we'll see.
So related to bike setup and that, you're one of the only top riders I can think of that's running Fox and SRAM. How did that come about then?
That just came about when I made the switch to Specialized. There was basically just a list of wants on my part. It was like, hey, if we're gonna make this happen, I would really like these things to happen. I would like to stay with this brand or whatever. And that was one of the things. I've been with Fox since 2008, my first year riding downhill, and have a really close relationship with those guys. I really believe in the product, and they've always done me right since day one. And I've said it a lot of times, but suspension is a big part of how a bike feels. You can make an average bike feel awesome if the suspension is really good, and you can make an awesome bike feel pretty average or pretty bad if the suspension isn't set up right. And we've always I just felt like they have a great product and we work really well together. So when I switched, it was something that I really wanted to stay with, just because it's what I've known and what I enjoy. Not to say that another product wouldn't be great as well, but for me, I don't know. It's just one of those things I really wanted to keep. I really believe in the brand and the product, so I was like wanted to keep it that way. So that was one of the things. When I moved over, I told them, hey, I would really like to stick with Fox, and obviously there was like some different things going on, and I really liked the SRAM stuff. I mean, I really liked it. So it was, it was one of those things. It was kind of weird, but at the same time, it was like, if we could get everybody on the same page and understand that we're just working towards the best outcome for me, as far as being a rider and getting the results that I want. Everybody was on the same page, like, we just want to try to give you the tools to do the best you can. So in the end, it was great, man. I kind of got the best of everything that I was looking for. The people that wanted to support me, they stepped up and they did, and that's what I have now. And some of the people that didn't, they backed out. So it was good, man. It worked out great. I mean, it's kind of, I've said it a bunch of times, but it is kind of my dream setup, and I really love everything that's on my bike. So it was, it was different, and it took a little while at first for people to kind of wrap their head around it, but once they did and they realized why the move was going that way, they were stoked to do it. So everybody at SRAM has been awesome. They gave me the best stuff this year. They were always working on the new stuff or whatever it was, always open for feedback, treated me like family. And same thing with Fox. So to have two brands, kind of put aside the competitive brand stuff, which is of course always going to be there, and just try to work together and help you, is I think it says a lot about both brands. So that was really cool to me. So
certainly no regrets moving from your track deal then?
No regrets. I knew before that I would never have a regret. When it's my belief and my faith leads me in my decisions, and I know the direction that's going to be right, no matter the outcome, because I know ultimately, like I said, it's going to work out for my good. Whether that shows in results or whether people understand even what that means or they get a chance to see it, doesn't matter, because I know that it will. I know that I'll never have regrets, and I never have. It's been awesome, man. I've worked with kind of a bunch of really amazing people, and we've done some cool stuff. We had a rough year in form of results, but in a lot of other ways, man, it was a really fun year. We've done cool stuff, and we're doing cool stuff now, so I'm stoked to keep it going for a couple more years.
So where do you see that you can improve going forward? What do you see as your strengths and weaknesses?
I think it's kind of the same as always. I think everything's always just getting better. I wouldn't really say that there's a specific spot that I would nail down, like, oh, this was a big weakness for me, I need to get better at this, or I need to do this, or whatever. It's always just working on little things. So I mean, fitness is always getting better, even though I think people made me out to be this like fitness god the last few years, which I wasn't. I've never been an awesome pedaler or whatever. I believed I was just faster, and that's why I was winning races like South Africa, not because I was gnarly on the pedals. If you line me up to the next top 10 dudes at pedaling the last couple of years, I bet I would be towards the end. And, so people, they see the fitness thing, and I'm on the program with Todd now, and I see what they've been doing, and it's probably 3 times as in-depth as what I've done the last few years. So it's always just bumping things up, always working, like something takes you to a level and you feel like you kind of plateau, and it's like, all right, how can I keep building, especially when you get to the top. There's not big things anymore, it's just fine-tuning all the time. But more just trying to let everything line up on race day. I think being excited about the races, dropping in with the mind excited for the race run, I think is going to be really good this year. Trying to get my setup and myself and my fitness in a spot where those mistakes won't happen this year. It was weird for me last year because I couldn't really even explain why the mistakes happened. I didn't feel like I was riding over my head. I honestly couldn't put my finger on why it was even happening. So it's like, well, I'm just going to keep moving forward and doing what I'm doing. So, just racing more in the preseason right now, trying to just get comfortable with race runs, which I already feel like I am. And, just showing up the first one, and then that'll kind of be the gauge, see where we're at.
Yeah. You said about, you didn't know quite why you're at that level, why those things happen. Do you think it's sustainable, racing at that very top level? Because everything's such split, tiny little differences. And do you think it is? I mean, you have managed it for 2 seasons, but do you think it...
Yeah, I mean, I always think that it is, because there's got to be a fastest guy every weekend, and everything is attainable, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy.
Yeah. But do you think people are almost pushing it too far now? Like, you see people crashing, and are they pushing the limits too far?
No, I mean, I think it just comes with the sport. Yeah. I mean, look at any sport. When it becomes to a level where there's a high level and you really have to ride the line. I mean, I always reference everything to motocross and supercross because it's kind of what I grew up in, but you look at guys like Villapoto. He's won a ton of championships lately, and but he's missed about half of the races with injury because he's always riding that line, and if he doesn't ride that line, you can't win that much. Yeah. Same thing with Stewart. He was the guy for a lot of years, and everybody kind of raised their level, and he kind of had to adapt, and now he's starting to win again. He's had a lot of injuries. You look at any of the guys that are kind of at the top, and it's always an up and down, usually. Yeah. Especially when it's a sport like what we have now, where there's as many fast guys as there are. If you want to win, you do have to ride the edge, but I never ride over my head. I always try to ride within my abilities, but if my top ability is 100%, I try to be banging off the rev limiter at 100%,
It can so easily go wrong.
So there's no guarantees. We don't, I'm not trying to be out there making dumb risks, but at the same time, it's, if you want to win, you got to go fast. So just trying to ride at that level, I guess it's not easy to do, especially when a lot of other guys are going fast. I think in the past, everybody almost had a specialty. They were fast and technical, or they were strong, or they were this or that. Now it's, the top 10 or even deeper, they're good at all those things. So
I was going to say, because that's, in the past in the office we've sort of chatted about, we say about what rider suits what tracks, and you're one of the riders we can't really pigeonhole almost. Do you think you are better on some tracks than others or not? I mean,
everybody always has their strengths, I guess. But when I came in, I realized really quick that my fitness and my pedaling was pretty terrible because I didn't grow up I was racing motocross all those years before. I didn't have this endurance pedaling. I don't know. It wasn't. I mean, I was literally digging trenches in the summer, working 9 to 5 and eating Taco Bell the 2 years before I started racing mountain bikes, just a normal dude. So it was I figured out pretty quick to race World Cups. You gotta, especially. And I saw, that was something I learned about people. I saw that there was weaknesses on certain kinds of tracks, and I thought, man, if I can always work on my weaknesses and bring those things up, I shouldn't have. I never understood why, even in motocross, somebody could go to their local track and dominate and then go to a different track and get smoked. I didn't get it. The fast guys should always be the fast guys. I never really had that big shift. But at the same time, there's tracks that suit my style better, like Val di Sole, or tracks that are wide and rough and more motocrossy, a lot of lines. That maybe makes it a little bit easier for me, but I always try to at least have a shot at winning, no matter what the track's like. But that's tough.
Yeah. Cool. Well, cheers for your time. I think we covered most things.
Sweet. Yeah. I'll probably talk your ear off, but
good.
Long-winded. You'll have a good time trying to narrow that down to an interview.
But good luck for the season.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Look.